Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's class here, just a recording I'm doing. I just got back from work the other day here in Nelson. I was working for about 3 weeks. I only had one day off. It was crazy flying everywhere. Japan, Australia, Thailand, London, England, all sorts of places. So I only had a chance to do one class recording. Now I'm at home. We're going to be able to do two this week, and I want to be able to finish the course just here at the end of the year, 2022. So once we get into January next month, we can look at some different material. So thank you for watching. Thank you for attending here. And today's class will be just sort of concluding. The next two classes are on Diamond Cutter, just again looking at the relationship between emptiness and the Four Noble Truths. So today it'll be emptiness, non-duality, and the four Arya Truths or Four Noble Truths. Okay, starting class with our Heart Sutra practice here. Homage to perfection was in the Blessed Mother. Thus I've heard at one time the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgir and Mass Vulture's Mountain, great assembly of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. That time the Blessed One was absorbed in concentration of countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. That time also Spiritual Valakshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, was looking perfectly at the price of profound perfection of wisdom, looking perfectly at the five aggregates being empty of inherent existence. Then, through the power of Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Spiritual Valakshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, how should a son of the lineage train who wishes to engage in the practice of profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and Spiritual Valakshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, replied to Venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of the lineage wishes to engage in the practice of profound perfection of wisdom should look perfectly like this. Subsequently, looking perfectly and correctly also at the five aggregates being empty of inherent existence. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is none other than form, and form is none other than emptiness. Likewise, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, having no characteristics. Do not produce, do not cease. We have no defilement, no separation from defilement. We have no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there's no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, and no consciousness. There's no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mentality, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no tactile, no phenomenon. There's no I element, and so forth, up to no mentality element, also up to no element of mental consciousness. There's no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance, and so forth, up to no aging and death, and no exhaustion of aging and death. Likewise, there's no suffering, origin, cessation, or path, no exalted awareness, no attainment, also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there's no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide in the perfection of wisdom. Their minds have no obstructions and no fear. Passing utterly beyond perversity, they attain the final nirvana. Also, all Buddhas reside perfectly in the three times, having relied upon the perfection of wisdom, became manifest and complete Buddhas in a state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the equal and unequal mantra, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, since it's not false, should be known as the truth. The mantra of perfection of wisdom is proclaimed, Tayatam Gata Gata Paragata Parasam Gati Bodhi Soha. Shariputra Bodhisattva, great beings should train the profound perfection of wisdom like this. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration, said to Spirit Valakshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, that he'd spoken well. Good, O son, and just like them. Since it's like that, just as you have revealed, in that way the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced, and the guys will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra, Spirit Valakshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, the entire circle of disciples, those worldly beings, gods, humans, demigods, and spirits, were delighted and highly praised what had been spoken by the Blessed One. Okay, so let's just take a moment to do our practice here in visualization for our meditation. So we're seated in a wide open space here, ground like lapis lazuli, and a beautiful cloudless blue sky above us. And we are surrounded by all sentient beings. Our mother on the left, father on the right, people we love the most behind us as support, people we like the least or have issues with in front of us as objects of compassion. And from there, we can move on outwards to people from all over the world, people closest to us, like in our neighborhood or work, and then moving to all human beings. In this dimension and others, animal beings from the animal realm, so whole natural environment of this world and other worlds, the spirit world, all different kinds of spirit beings, astral, ethereal, elemental planes, and so forth. Different celestial beings, gods and demigods, and countless beings in lower states of existence, the hungry ghost realm and hell beings. These are sort of a huge number, vast majority of sentient beings are in these two unfortunate states. So we're all together. Here's one big family ready to meditate together. And in our beautiful blue sky above us, let's visualize our merit field. So in this case, for our Diamond Cutter course, let's visualize just simple Buddhist Shakyamuni, sort of made a beautiful golden light like the sun in the sky. And he's wearing the three robes of a monk and so in a lotus position. His left hand holds a begging bowl from the nectar, and the right hand is in the subduing mudra, touching the earth. And beautiful golden energy. And then at his heart is his higher Sambhogakaya form, Conqueror Vajradhara, with his partner Vajradhatu Vishvari, and they're together. Beautiful blue light, sapphire blue light, two of them in sexual embrace, having crowns and jewelry and so forth. And Vajradhara has a bell in his left hand, Dorje in his right. She's got a skull cup with medicinal nectar in her left, and curved chopper knife or cleaver in her right. And her heart, beautiful moon letters shared between. And this is softly radiating out rainbow lights, 5 elemental lights, white, yellow, red, green, and blue. Now taking refuge, I and all sentient beings to achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings to achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings to achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Setting our bodhicitta intention here, through the virtues we collect by giving other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues we collect by giving other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. And through the virtues we collect by giving perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. After reciting that, we can just visualize beautiful white lights come down from Buddha's heart of Vajradhara and Vajradhatu Vishvari, purifying us and all sentient beings, cleaning out all of our negativities, forms like black smoke and so forth, and making us all crystal clear. So this beautiful white light sort of illuminating all, chasing away all the shadows and darkness. And now light from Buddha's heart changes color to golden color here. So first is the purification, now the empowerment. So this golden light's going out, sunlight, blessing all of us, empowering us, helping us go up a level of energy, making our mind pure and virtuous. General four measurables, love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. May everyone be happy. May everyone be free from misery. May no one ever be separated from their happiness. May everyone have equanimity, free from hatred and attachment. Now generating the 7 limb practice as I'm making our practice Buddhist. Prostration, offering, confession or declaration, rejoicing, asking all holy beings to stay, asking them to teach, and dedication. So again, prostration, shines of respect and devotion to Buddha Shakyamuni, the merit field here, seeing an identity between ourselves and the Buddha, with our own Buddha nature. Offering from our heart, beautiful offerings, or just like, for instance, flowers, in all directions, or lights, candles. Sort of declaration or acknowledging and rejoicing. So again, standing up, taking responsibility for our negativities and failures and so forth and mistakes made out of ignorance and our sort of selfish mind. And again, owning our faults and wanting to work on them, outgrow them, pay off our karma, make amends, so forth, and ultimately let go and sort of move past all of our negative habits and traits and so forth. We become more positive, loving, compassionate people. And rejoicing in all the goodness, goodness in all holy beings, the goodness in people around the world, even in our own goodness. Asking Buddha Shakyamuni and all holy beings to always stay with us, setting up a beautiful square lion throne, white lion throne, dissolving into Buddha. And please asking them to continue to teach us. So a golden 8-spoked Dharma chakra we send up as well. The two most important things, always making space in our lives for the Buddhas and holy beings and our gurus. Please be our guide. Please be our teacher. And most of all, sort of please continue to give us teachings and personal advice and guidance. And I'm dedicating all of this wonderful merit for the enlightenment of all sentient beings. One more offering to sort of open our heart up here, mind of generosity, Dana. Just holding in our hands a purified cosmos or universe here, mandala offering. The ground sprinkled with perfume and spread with flowers, a great mountain, 4 lands, sun and moon. Seen as a Buddha land and offered thus, may all beings enjoy such goodness. Om Idam Guru Radha. We send forth this jewel mandala, a precious universe, beautiful universe, as an offering to you, holy teachers and Buddhas. Then once more from Buddha's heart, beautiful golden light comes down for us and all sentient beings, blessing us, empowering us. Just like sunlight coming down, so the clouds part and the beautiful sun is coming out. And this activates in our body, we now have a little crystal, beautiful diamond or crystal Buddha at our heart. Just a little one, maybe about the size of a grape or a sunflower seed, representing your Buddha nature. The emptiness of your own mind, as well as your clear cognizing mind meditating. As a yogic direct perceiver with this emptiness. So we can feel all beings around us have the little crystal or diamond Buddha at their heart as well. And this diamond Buddha is the same as the holder of the diamond Vajradhara at the heart of the Shakyamuni in the sky in front of us here. So just in our mind's eye, if you send up a little drone looking around the audience of all thousands of sentient beings here, countless sentient beings, we've all got little diamond Buddhas at our hearts, representing all of our Buddha nature. Buddha Shakyamuni, please grant us Buddha Shakyamuni, whose mind is synthesis of all Buddha jewels, speech is synthesis of all Dharma jewels, and body is a synthesis of all Sangha jewels. Please grant us your blessings of body, speech, and mind. So now we can feel that Buddha Shakyamuni starts to melt in the golden light, sort of melting inwards, dissolving into his heart, into conqueror Vajradhara and Vajradhara to Ishvari. And then like a little blue diamond in the sky there. And then sort of come down like a little shooting star, but slow, come down the crown of our head, enter our crown chakra, enter our central channel, and slowly just in front of our spine start to descend. Do they merge and become one with the diamond Buddha at our heart? Now, again, meditating on this beautiful diamond Buddha at our heart. That's all the energy, the compassion, the power, and the wisdom of all holy beings directly sort of melted into it and one with it. So just coming in meditation now. And we can still visualize, just sort of have the awareness of having our little crystal or diamond Buddha at our heart.
and always to have an awareness of that, our living nature, what that means, and that that's always with us, the emptiness of our own mind. Okay, so getting to just to the material here. So today's class will be again looking at emptiness and the process of realizing emptiness directly. And we talked about the 5 paths here: path of accumulation, path of preparation, path of seeing, path of meditation, also known as path of habituation, and then path of normal learning. Okay. So first thing is to give 2 definitions of what non-duality is. So this is sort of like, I guess, a class on emptiness, non-duality, and the 4 Arya truths. So non-duality, we always in Buddhism, you hear this about what's non-duality, non-dual, emptiness, being non-dual, appearance, non-duality, blah, blah, blah. This sort of, you hear this a lot at teachings and reading different Dharma books. So 2 definitions here of non-duality. One in Tibetan be Ning Nang Nupa, basically roughly translated as 2 things appearing disappears. So this is the first definition, is that the awareness of you and the awareness of emptiness that you are seeing directly at that moment disappears. So when you're meditating and seeing emptiness directly on the path of seeing, it's like there's no longer any sense of you, like a worldly you seeing it. It's just like an event of emptiness appearing to your mind. And remember, like I say, if the definition of mind in Buddhism is clear and cognized, the only thing we can say about mind is that it's clear, it's a sheer openness, it doesn't have a quality, it is a no thingness, like a no thingness, it doesn't have any definition, quality or characteristic, which allows it to be a space where qualities, characteristics, definitions appear or show themselves as they are. In other words, it's non-material in the sense that it doesn't have a kind of, again, a definition or quality, something we can touch, describe, talk about, or formulate in language. It's just a bare clarity, sheer openness. And again, it's like there is an awareness. All we can say about it is just sheer awareness. What is that? Just again, and that this awareness has no self or position or sort of ego, so to speak, attached to it. There's no sort of quality of that, a quality and meanness in it. It's just sheer awareness. So in Dharma, Aristotle talks about that. He talks about the potentiality of the mind, the action of the mind. He says the potential quality of the mind, the potential to know anything. He says that when the mind is like that, he says it's a sheer openness. Again, just like in Buddhism, I think there's probably a lot of cultural and philosophical sharing culturally between India, Persia, North Africa, and Greece at the time, where there's a lot of philosophies influencing one another, again, from that whole area. I guess what would later become the Byzantine Empire. Because we do know that famous pre-Socratic philosophers did travel to India to learn Vedanta, for instance. Well, what would become Vedanta, I guess, like sort of Hindu thought and so forth, and vice versa. You're going to have people trading and stuff and learning more Greco-Roman thought. Anyway, just saying that there's a similarity when you read Dan. I remember reading it when I was studying philosophy years ago. When I was studying ancient philosophy, and then later when I started meditating, I'm like, wow, that's amazing that Aristotle almost gives a Buddhist definition of the mind there in famous Greek philosophy. So anyway, the potential quality of the mind is, he says, it's like clear wax. It's just like when you melt wax, it's like white, then you melt, it's clear, like my little tea lights here in my butter lamps. You get the tea light at Shoppers Drug Mart or something, and it's white, then you light it, and after a while, it's completely clear, right? It's just like water. But when you put a stamp in it, it takes the form of the stamp. So all it is it allows the thing to show itself. So that would be sort of the idea of it having sort of non-material quality mind. And then the actual, what they call agent intellect, the sort of active quality of the mind, Aristotle says, is that it's like light, that it allows things to show themselves as what they are. So if you have, let's say, furniture in a room, the room's pitch dark, you can't see it, you flip on the light, the empty sort of clear spaciousness of the room, all of a sudden the objects of the room, the chair, the table, the bed, or whatever, appear as themselves. So we're talking about the same thing here, is that
The mind itself is clear and cognizing, doesn't really have any quality, just awareness. And then it's meditating on something which is an absence, which is emptiness. It's the absence of a nature. It's the absence of inherent existence. So it's quite similar in a lot of ways. They're not the same thing. And that the mind that is clear and knowing is empty. Its nature is empty. Which is interesting. So what I'm saying is that when you have that experience in the path of seeing, there's only emptiness appearing in the space of the mind, and this emptiness is an absence. So there's a real sense of a feeling of non-duality, where the mind and emptiness become one. Now they're not one. One's a subject, one's an object. And one is a positive thing. In other words, the mind has characteristics. It, is clear and cognizing, where emptiness is a negation. It's the absence of something. In this case, it is the absence of inherent existence or a nature. Okay. So but nevertheless, like I say, they give a sense of it being like a quote non-dual experience. Okay. There is sort of an experience of non-duality, of your awareness and emptiness becoming one, even though in the big picture they're not. But they say it's like pouring one glass of water into another glass of water. And of course, both, when you've got your nice crystal glass full of water, everything's clear, clarity into clarity, right? Okay, so emptiness in meditation is a different type of reality. You can't perceive it with your ordinary mind because it's withdrawn from your senses or relative objects. In this experience, there is a division between subject and object, but you're not aware of it. So that's just what I was saying, is that in a lot of ways, when we're meditating on emptiness, it is an indirect object, it is a hidden object. It's when you're setting it up on the path of preparation, emptiness isn't something you see, it's something you reason about. When I talk about the emptiness of my mala here, its emptiness doesn't appear to me. What I've got is all the relative sense characteristics and labels and so forth. Like it feels a certain way, the sandalwood here, it has a color, I can talk about it. There's a whole conceptual thing around this, a history, what does this mean, meaning, contents, and so forth. So that's very different than emptiness. But when I'm meditating on that, like the generic image of emptiness, let's say even the generic image of emptiness of what this is, and that falls away and with my mind, my yogic direct perceiving, when I see emptiness directly, it appears as an absence. This disappears. So that's what's interesting, is you're switching the channel. You're going from conventional reality, conventional truth, and flipping over into ultimate truth. So it's kind of like two ways to see something, two sides of the same coin. You're changing the channel from one to the other. So while you're perceiving emptiness, you can't perceive all those relative qualities. You can't even perceive yourself as a worldly relative self meditating on emptiness that way. Okay, so I like this. Even though there is a division between subject and object, mind meditating on emptiness, so mind being the subject, emptiness being the object, you are not aware of this. Again, all that's appearing to you is emptiness, not anything else. Second one is yamning, which means equal totally. You are totally equal to all other objects that exist qua emptiness. So in a lot of ways, just like I said before, when you're meditating on emptiness directly and see it directly, there is one taste, because everything is empty. That's the nature of things, is that they have no nature. And so in that state, everything is empty. So even if you put all the things in the world together and all their diverse qualities, they all share one thing, is that they're all empty. The mind meditating on emptiness directly is itself empty. And so you meditate, even like on Mahamudra, that's when we do that, we're meditating on the emptiness of the mind itself. So that's the non-duality of basically sort of the final definition of things, is that everything is empty, right? The final definition is that we don't have a definition for things. Okay, this is the path of seeing. Now we come out of our meditation emptiness. We're meditating, let's say, I don't know, whatever that is. It seems like an eternity, but let's say it's 10 minutes or whatever. We come out. Okay, wow. Now I'm on the fourth path. The big switch over, the big crossover is the path of seeing. Now I flipped over into the fourth out of 5 paths. So at this point, I remember one thing Geshe Michael Roach said, which is funny: you can divide all the world up into 2 kinds of people, 2 kinds of beings, people that have seen emptiness and people that haven't. So there's this, of course, small number of people seeing emptiness. directly, obviously, but the point is that when you see emptiness directly and on the path of seeing, you are no longer a normal sentient being. You are no longer a regular worldly person. At this point, you are becoming a holy saintly person because you're seeing the truth of reality. You're seeing the divine truth of things. You are a Arya or higher being or a noble being. At this point, you're seeing through the card trick. You're seeing through illusion. You're waking up. So the person waking up is very different than everyone else who's still asleep. You have a room full of beds, everyone's fast asleep, snoring away, and then the one person's like getting up, like rubbing their eyes, like, oh, where am I? What's going on? You're that kind of person waking up. So the flip over, as you can see, when you're on the path of accumulation and preparation, you're still a regular worldly person, worldly sentient being, so forth. Once you break through that wall, kind of the dreamlike wall of illusion, get through it, almost like the wall of Maya in Vedanta, you're crossing over now at this point, crossing over into the of course, the path of seeing, and now you are in Arya being. So now you're coming out of that experience. You're coming out of the path of seeing and going into the fourth path, which is called Gom, or meditation, better, in some ways better translated as the path of habituation, the path of embodiment, you could say the path of training. And what is the path of embodiment or training, or putting the path of living it, so to speak, the path of doing it? What is that path? That's how to integrate this experience into your day-to-day life, how to integrate this holy realization, the wake-up moment, the satori, into your day-to-day life. So that's what the path of habituation is like, okay, what's the cash out here from this experience? What does this do to me? What kind of person? Now I'm a different person. I'm a completely transformed person. I am no longer the same person anymore. I'm an Arya being. I'm graduating. I'm a senior in high school, or my last year in my PhD. The dissertation's handed, I just have to defend it. I'm on my way out of samsara. So the on the way out part, the final year of high school, is the path of habituation before you graduate to nirvana, to enlightenment here. So this is where you're just going to be, again, meditating in emptiness again and again, going in and out of that experience again and again, refining it and lengthening it, really embodying until it's what it is all the time, till that's your full experience. And at that point, you're at the fifth path of no more learning. At this point, you are a arhat, which means a foe destroyer. You have conquered your foes. What is it? What are your foes? Your delusions, yourself, your ego. You have conquered yourself. You are your own worst enemy. That enemy is now defeated. You have escaped samsara. You have basically graduated out of the school of hard knocks of samsara and are now in nirvana, and you are now a saint, an arhat, a foe destroyer on that path. So that's really, really beautiful. So that's why when you first are on the path of seeing, when you come out of it, you are a stream enter on, floating down the stream to the big ocean of enlightenment. You are, it's like the conveyor belt. You are leaving samsara. You're not going to fall off the belt. No one can pull you off this process now. You're floating down the river. No one can grab you. You're gone. But nevertheless, you still got the river to float down. There's still this whole sort of point where you still have to train on your experience of emptiness, how to integrate it, make it go deeper, make it be better, make it be fully who you are. And that's when you become an arhat. So some of the things you will realize after seeing emptiness coming down. And remember, you are in the form realm. You're basically, mind of tranquil binding is an irregular human mind, that mind of total concentration. It is the mind of equivalent to a God on the form realm of God existence. So if we divide, there's Rupa Dhatu, which is samsara, Karma Dhatu, sorry, not Rupa, it's the Karma Dhatu. Basically, beings in samsara defined by desire or attachment. So that's all the six realms, including so humans, animals, spirit beings, demigods, hell beings, and pretas, and including gods from the desire realm of gods. That sort of fits in that set. But the other two God realm divisions are actually separate from, they don't have desire or attachment in a worldly way. So these gods, it's the form realm gods and the formless realm gods. Form realm gods, they say their body is just a pure light or energy. Nevertheless, they still have self-cherishing and attachment. They're still in samsara. And then what they call the peak of samsara, peak of the pyramid of samsara, are the formless realm gods, where they say these gods are just minds and jhana states, but nevertheless have grasping of inherent existence, so they suffer. They're in samsara. They say these gods are just like empty space. Okay, but when I have a mind of tranquil abiding, I'm on that level of the form realm gods, and I've seen emptiness directly in the path of seeing. Now I'm coming out of that. Now I'm still going to have, my tranquil abiding what I want, but the point is I'm going back into the world of relativity and conventionality, in the world of quote unquote everydayness. Now, once I sort of, I wake up, wow, oh my God, wow, amazing. I just saw emptiness. I'm here on my cushion here in Nelson, let's say, it hasn't happened, but let's say, one day when it does happen. So I come out of that experience, again, sort of descending, and I'm now sort of back, and don't have mind of tranquil abiding. This is, I'm not meditating, absorbing on something. I'm just like, okay, here in my life. Now what do I realize? Like they say, it's like a flood. You get this in the Diamond Cutter Sutra, these kind of qualities, these sort of experiences are coming, these quote unquote realizations. Okay, so what comes in a package like a zip file? What gets the moment I go on my phone at a foreign airport and I dial into Wi-Fi, ding, 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 all my texts start coming, hey, where are you, what's going on? Or my mom's trying to get a hold of me. When I'm in London or Bangkok or something, ding, 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 the phone's out. So similar kind of thing. I come out of meditation and emptiness in conventional reality. Well, what comes? Spiritual realizations that are conventionalities. In other words, they're not ultimate things, ultimate thing being emptiness. Everything else is conventional reality. What are these holy relative truths? They are the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths, four Arya truths. So what's interesting is that up until this point, we're only taking, if you're just regular Joe Blow studying this, we don't know that these noble truths are true. I mean, Buddha's a nice guy. We believe him. We have faith in him. But most of this stuff, we haven't got a personal experience of it. So we don't know if it's true. We only know that it's true logically, that we can sort of prove it using reason, logic, and look at the scriptures and teachings and sutras and see how they make sense. Are they coherent? Are they relevant? Do they speak to me? And so forth. So, it's the thing of, how do I know Buddha is not lying to me? It's the big sort of proof you get, sort of a sutric proof. And they say, well, we can't prove really the other three Arya truths in terms of our experience. In other words, true origins, true cessations, and true paths. We can only argue those intellectually using reason and logic. That's it, based on arguing karma and so forth. But on an experiential level, the first noble truth is when Buddha talks about suffering, true sufferings, talks about three levels of core suffering, changing suffering, pervasive suffering, talks about the nature of samsara. We know this is true on an experiential point of view because we can just look to our own lives to validate it. Probably the reason we've come to Buddhist classes in the first point is that we're suffering, is because we're unhappy. So when Buddha starts talking about what it means to be dissatisfied, what it means to be anxious, what it means to be anxious, what it means to be separate, what old age, sickness, and death really mean, and we're surrounded by it, we can say, yeah, that's true. Like Melvin McLeod, I think he's one of the Shambhala editor guys. He said, Buddhism is the first time I came across a religion or philosophy that told me what I didn't want to hear. Like, in other words, it told me kind of the naked lunch, the raw, uncut, kind of like raw truth about things. It's not all happy new age Care Bear stuff. It's just all the really depressing stuff about my life that I know is true and I want to get out of, my own personal sufferings and the sufferings of the people around me. So I know that Arya truth is true. But the other three, I just know by studying and talking to teachers and us arguing and kind of using reason, logic, and studying the scriptures. Now all of a sudden, pow, I see emptiness. I come out of emptiness in the path of habituation. Well, what happens? Now I know directly all four noble truths or Arya truths are true. Why? Because I see them directly. It's the first thing I see when I come out of emptiness and I'm in the world of name and form. when I'm just surrounded by the dependent arising of grammar, of language, of concepts, of name and form, the first thing that hits me is it's true, the Four Noble Truths. Buddha wasn't pulling my leg. This guy in India or Nepal 2,500 years ago said all this stuff. It's true. I can't believe it's true. Wow, it's true. It really is true. All of it, the whole thing, not just a little bit, the whole package. It is true. All of it. It all makes sense. I totally get it because I see it directly. And then you start to think, all this time, all my Buddhist teachers have been telling me this stuff lifetime after lifetime. And deep down, maybe I don't believe it or doesn't make sense. Now, oh my God, it's totally true. I get it. I see how samsara works. I see how my mind works. I see how emptiness works. So top J top yeshe, knowledge you will get after seeing emptiness, insights and realization. So number one, the first Arya truth of suffering, you see directly, okay? You know your death and see it's real. Okay. Number two, you can read other people's minds or see their affliction. So the first thing I see is yes, I come out of emptiness. I see that everything is karma. Everything is dependent origination. I see that everything's imputed by my mind. I see that everything is relative. Everything is impermanent. Everything is changing. I see impermanence directly. I see impermanence directly. If I see emptiness, I see impermanence directly because they go together, which means I see I am impermanent. I'm going to die. I'm going to die soon. Everything's slipping away. Everything's falling apart. I'm getting older. I'm getting sicker. I'm going to fall apart. I'm going to die and I'm going to reincarnate again. So I see this directly. I see what true sufferings are. And two, you can read other people's minds. In other words, you see their reflections. You see everyone else's. Not only do you automatically see your own ignorance, what you've been getting wrong all this time, everyone around you, you see they're all wrong. You see that they do not see emptiness directly. And so they're caught in their own self-grasping mind. They don't see things changing. They think they're real. They think they're independent of their minds. And so they're suffering. You see all the compounded self-cherishing and delusions based on that. So right away, you see their minds. You see their deluded minds. And you have compassion. You've got bodhicitta. So you're like, oh my God, everyone's like on drugs. Everyone's crazy. Because they don't see what I've just seen, which is emptiness. They think all this is real. Wow, they think that they believe in the magic trick. They believe in the fake stuff, unbelievable. And so they're suffering intensely. And emptiness is right on the tip of their nose and they don't see it. And oh, you have so much compassion. It's like, dude, it's right there. You know, the liberation from your suffering is just right on the tip of your nose. Oh my God, can't you see it? I just saw it. You can see it too. You see this, the first noble truth directly. Second noble truth, or Arya truth, higher being. I'm a higher being because I've seen emptiness. All the beings that have seen emptiness are no longer sentient beings. They're no longer regular worldly people. So the second Arya truth of origins, you now know you have never had a correct perception in your life till now. Things appear to exist independently of your mind, and you always thought they did. Now you see that they never have. Things always appear unchanging, inherently existing, unrelated to everything else, dualistically separate from you. Now you know they're not because you've seen emptiness. So you're like, I've been wrong this whole time. I finally see things clearly. I finally see the truth. I finally see the nature of things. Finally, I've been wrong all this time. B, you've never undertaken action that wasn't motivated by selfishness. Right up until this point, now I'm on my way to being a saint or arhat, I see everything I've done has been selfish because it's been based on self-cherishing minds, self-grasping minds, me versus the world, me versus you, us and them, all these things, all these separations, and there's never been a separation. There's only been duality. There's only been interbeing. There's only been independent origination and emptiness, and yet I've never seen that. So everything deep down I've done has been selfish. And I can see this, and I'm being liberated from this from the first time. I can be selfless for the first time because I have seen selflessness of emptiness. Number three, third Arya truth of cessations. One, you have seen a Buddha directly. Okay, you've seen the emptiness of your own mind. You've seen emptiness, but the Sobhavakaya is the fourth body of a Buddha, which is the emptiness of the other three bodies, the emptiness of Dharmakaya, wisdom truth body of the Buddhas, the emptiness of Sambhogakaya, the beatific angelic body or enjoyment body of the Buddhas, the emptiness of the Nirmanakaya or avatar or emanation body of the Buddhas. All three of those are one because they're all empty. And so I know that Buddhas exist. I've been basically in contact directly with them by perceiving emptiness directly, right? So that alone is, I know there is such a thing as a Buddha, and that I have Buddha nature and I'm going to be a Buddha soon, and that everyone has the potential to be a Buddha, and we're all on the way to becoming a Buddha. I see this directly. B, see your future Buddhahood, know how many future lives you have. When you come out of emptiness, they even say, you know, maybe Buddhas appear to you in a visionary thing, but you know how much time you have left in samsara. Even as a stream entry, you know, you will be a once returner, twice returner. You'll know how much time left you have to graduate, right? Some people right away, it's like, oh, wow, in one lifetime, they're in the gifted class. I'm in the dummy class. I have to repeat grade 12 or whatever. Like, I can sort of see, it's like, oh, okay, Matthew's a little slower on the go here. It's going to take him a little bit longer karmically with the kind of guy he's been with his past life karma and stuff, with his imprints as an art, becoming an arhat or be on the way to being, but it's a little bit slower for the Matthew guy here. And so, oh, it's going to be whatever, 3 lives, 4 lives. But then you see, and then of course, you'll know what those lives are, and you'll know what you'll be doing. You'll know that you will have the Dharma. The whole path will be there. It's like, okay, 3 more lives, whatever. I'm going to be this person, this next life, and the next person, and then I get it. And with my teaching, the Buddhas are helping me along. It's like, I know what I have to do. It's like, whatever, to graduate, I have 3 more credits. I got my French class, I got my geography, and I got my whatever, anthropology class. And I know I've got, you know, that 6 major papers and 3 exams. It's like, I got it. I know it's on the exams. And it's like, you can chart it out at that point. And so then you just then you start to, it's like study, cramming for the exam. I know what I got to do. Ding, 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 back to meditating on emptiness, back to my Vipassana practice, right? So C, you know, when you're a Buddha, you won't be called by your old name. So of course, when you get enlightened, like when I'm seeing it there, it's like this Matthew guy, it's just the movie of this life. Next 2 lives is going to be different. And of course, I've had all these past lives. So we're always so attached to this person here, let's say the Matthew guy. And it's just like, hey, this is just one life, one movie. There's been countless past movies. And let's say we got 3 movies left. Each of these movies, it'll be a different character and a different person meditating in emptiness before they reach nirvana. And once I become a Buddha, so we're talking Mahayana paths here, would become a full Buddha, not just an arhat. I become a full Buddha. At this point, I will have a different name. Okay, it won't be Matthew Richards Buddha from Nelson. It might, whatever. I always find the Buddhas have these great kind of hippie names. Starlight, Moonlight, Matthew. No, not even Matthew, but Starlight, Moonlight, Nelson Emanation or something. I don't know, like F to C. But the Buddhas will actually appear to you and tell you at this point, you will have a vision when you will get enlightened and what name you will have. Just like all the medicine Buddhas have a name and all these Buddhas have a name, and you will be called that by once you start manifesting and teaching. Oh, the great Buddha so-and-so. And then you can talk about your past lives. Oh, I was this, whatever, this flight attendant guy. You wouldn't believe it. Oh man, what a weird past life. But that guy meditated emptiness. And then the lady that came after him in this life, whatever, let's somewhere in some other part of the world, you know, she was hard meditating, and you can talk about your past lives and talk about your whole pedagogy, your whole educational line here, your whole path. It's like a story that as a Buddha, you can tell people and even inspire them. Just like I was like you once, and you're on the path and you're going to graduate soon. And this is what it's like. It's like coming back. You're a professor teaching everyone in first year university is what you need to do. Your undergrad and your master's and your doctorate. This is what you have to do. These are the obstacles you have. Don't make mistakes like I made mistakes. I got stuck 10 lifetimes, wasted time, got caught here doing this or that. You can teach that way. Fourth Arya path, which is of course true paths. We've got true sufferings, origins, cessations, and path. Number 1, you have a clear, strong sensation of bodhicitta, a light in your heart, and you'll see that you'll devote your life to helping others. So of course, at this point, you are really at engaging bodhicitta. It's no longer an aspiring bodhicitta where you're trying hard to get enlightened, dedicate everything for enlightenment, and also trying hard to be um, compassionate towards all sentient beings. At this point, having realized emptiness, you have real bodhicitta. At that point, your real compassion is based on a true experience or realization of emptiness. It is ultimately, you'll have like an amazing compassion because you see people's ignorance, you see people self-grasping, they're self-cherishing, they're suffering, and you really love all sentient beings like your children at that point, and you want to help them to get the same realization you did. Okay, so B, you will prostrate, like at this point, like you'll have absolute devotion to the Buddhas for having shown you this path and helped you make it, so to speak, that helped you cut it, that actually helped you have the experience of emptiness. You will make C, the first real offering of your life based on the understanding of emptiness. You will see the three spheres of giver, gift, and recipient. You will make an offering for the first time, not tainted by any kind of selfishness, hang-ups, ego, agendas, or what. It will be completely selfless because you realized emptiness, right? 4, you understand images of the Buddha are really what those beings look like. Well, what's interesting is, of course, you see emptiness. So you see the fourth body of a Buddha, which is the Sobhavakaya. But also on this level, now you are, if you've realized, if you are a Mahayana practitioner, at this point, you are on the first Bodhisattva Bhumi. You're on very joyful, which means you have the first realization of the paramita of giving, which means you have total selfless compassion giving 24/7. This is the one where Bodhisattva, someone says, I want your glass. Yes. I want your finger, cut it off, give it to them. You know, whatever. I want hair to make a wig. I shave my head. I don't have hair anyway, but whatever, give it, here you go. Anything you want, I'll give to you because I see everything is one. Everything is empty. Everything's a projection of my mind. Everything is karma. I know how karma works. I know that giving is what produces happiness and love and goodness in the world and light. And so I just give. So right from my heart, there's that beam of real bodhicitta being on the first bhumi here. And even on the first bhumi, you could look, it's not a class on the first bhumis, but even on this level, you can emanate bodies as a bodhisattva and be in two different places at once. So you start getting all these miracle powers as an Arya being. You're sort of like a magic being, a holy being at that minute. And your people, you are worthy of people's respect and prostration because you're a holy being at this point. You're no longer a normal person. You're no longer a regular sentient being. You're becoming like you're an Arya or higher being. Okay, so and then you're in visionary contact with the Buddhas. Buddhas, their Sambhogakaya are always in Pure Land. So the being we see, I don't have anyway, I can't reach from my little spot here, but like let's say we got a little Tara Puja and you see, of course, green Tara here, or even Tromanagmo behind me here, those are emanation bodies or Nirmanakayas, right? They're symbols, they're symbolic beings. But in the Pure Lands, this is what Buddhas actually really look like, except they're made out of pure energy or light like a diamond. But they're alive, they're like an angel. And when I'm on the first Bodhisattva Bhumi, I can go to Pure Lands. Right now I can't, I'm a regular person, but then I can and get direct teachings from the Buddhas. I'm in direct visionary contact with the Buddhas at that point, and then I know they're real. It's like, wow, that's a great Tsongkhapa Lama. Then being, oh my God, I really am like in, I should say, Tromanagmo, I'm in her Pure Land. And it's like, that's what she looks like. She really is like Kali. She's this black angel made out of beautiful black diamond and sending lasers and energy to me, and I feel so blissful. I'm getting all these teachings. Like, wow, I mean, I read about this in the books, but this is really happening. It's really, really true. Okay, I understand that on 5 here, I understand that all Dharma books are true and must preserve. So I understand the value of Dharma. I understand the importance of teaching Dharma, of going to attend Dharma to support it, and just making sure that there's Dharma in the world. Why? This is the ladder, the path, the ladder that got me over the wall. This is the boat that got me to the other side of the river. This is the map. It worked for me, so I want it to work for everyone else, especially with my bodhicitta. And so I want to support this and forward it and make sure that there is Dharma in the world, that there is kind of like the escape hatch and the ladder out of samsara. I see the importance of preserving, teaching, and forwarding Dharma in the world. And the most important one is that I see again as the Arya truth here, the true path is I see that this is my first sema or pramana, my first valid mind. All this is true. Everything I thought before is wrong. This is right, because it's based on an understanding direct realization of emptiness, which means I know all this is true, which means I know I am not crazy. I was actually crazy before I realized emptiness. I just didn't know it. So think about all the crazy Buddhist stuff seems all crazy, but really that's what's true. And my regular worldly life with my ego and opinions and hangups and crazy and silly delusions and stuff, that's the crazy part. And I see it crazy as crazy for the first time. Like I see it being diluted. I see it being not true, inaccurate, skewed, decentered, all these things. For the first time, I have an accurate take, an objective take on my own subjectivity, right? For the first time, I have an outside perspective on my own ego and see, wow, it's completely wrong because it's based on a delusion, self-grasping, grasping an inherent existence of myself. And now that I've had experience of emptiness and selflessness, I see that it's wrong. So I see the illusion of all things, which is Gyema Abu, the true meaning of like an illusion, okay? So your perception of things being self-existent reasserts itself when you come down, but you know that perception is wrong, okay? You can't stop these wrong self-existent perceptions, but you know they're wrong. You still suffer and have bad thoughts, but you lose the two most important bad thoughts, the intellectual belief in self-existence and doubt in the path or dharma. So no one can ever again convince you that your self-existent perceptions are correct. So that means when I come out of emptiness, things appear separate from me. My dorje here looks separate from my mind. It looks separate on the table here. It looks like it's not me, but I know different because I've seen emptiness. I know that they're one, that this is a product of my mind. It's a label on a base. Through concepts and grammar, I've created this. I know this. So my intellectual delusions are gone. You can never convince me that this stuff is real, independent of my mind, right? And so my intellectual, what they call obstacles to liberation, this is the obstacles to nirvana, that's all gone. Things appear separate from me, appear independent of my mind, appear to be self-existent, but I know they're not. Okay, I can see the card game. I see how the guy with the cards makes the little trick on people. I see how it works, but I know it doesn't. It doesn't work on me, right? When he's got the whatever, the jack of spades in his, you know, in his shirt sleeve or something, or whatever the trick is. I know how it works, but I see how other people make the mistake, right? Okay, so the path of habituation, just summing up here, you use your understanding of emptiness to remove your mental afflictions day by day, and one day they're gone and you reach nirvana, okay? Okay, so again, Chopa is basically enemy destroyer. That's what the Tibetan word for arhat is, okay? The enemy of destroying the enemy of your mental afflictions. Okay, so interesting. This is like the purpose of seeing emptiness is to end your bad thoughts. I like my little notes here. You can't hold two objects in your mind at once. So if emptiness is always in your mind, then anger, attachment, and ignorance can't be. Okay, they've been erased, or you can't focus on, like, multitask. It's one thing your mind's focusing on. If it's focusing on emptiness of truth, there can't be errors. There can't be delusions at the same time. Okay, so this is what leads to nirvana or paradise. Once we get up, now this would be another class and talk about the different 8 bhumis, but once we get to actually out of the 10 bhumis on the Mahayana path, coming out of the path of seeing, the 8th bhumi, at this point, we're moving path of habituation in the Mahayana scope. You divide it into 10, and so basically it's the 10 bhumis, and with each bhumi I accomplish another perfection, like the 6 paramitas, as well as 4 additional ones, one being a higher thing of wisdom, cloud of dharma, perfection of skill, perfection of prayer, and perfection of, I think, of intention. If I'm not correct on that, you should look it up. It's probably on Wikipedia. And then of course the 6 main paramitas we all know about, of course, being generosity, moral discipline, patience, joyous effort, concentration, and wisdom. So, and then they divide it up into 3 sets of 3, making 9. The final one, cloud of Dharma, that bhumi, that's the last mind of a sentient being. At that point, you become a Buddha. So what they have is, big obstacles, it's a set of 3, middle obstacles, set of 3, and smaller or subtle obstacles, set of 3. And then making the 9, the 10th bhumi is the final sort of act before you get full enlightenment as Buddhahood, which means you see the 2 truths, conventional reality and ultimate reality, dependent arising and emptiness at the same time, which is a mark of full enlightenment of a Buddha. But the point is once you get to the 8th bhumi, at this is, they say, level of great mastery over things, you're at this point, you're really living emptiness, except that, emptiness, of course, is uncaused, it's a negation. At this point, your understanding, experience of emptiness is so powerful, all of your imprints and bad thoughts will never increase or never grow. Okay, like at this point, you're on your way out on the next 3 paths to enlightenment, 8th, 9th, and 10th, because there's a set, nothing's increasing, no negative energy or thoughts are ever added to the pot. At this point, it's just the literally bare left at the bottom of the pot you have to scrub out. So at this point, when you hit the 8th bhumi, okay, there's just sort of, there's no longer thoughts polluted by plain ignorance, no more mental affliction. So just very, very subtle seeds of ignorance. These never grow or increase. These are just finally wiped out. And they say at this level, Buddha gives the word, you'll definitely be enlightened in names of time and place. So this is actually where the Buddhas appear to you when you're on the 8th bhumi, on the path of habituation, where they show you the path of no more learning, when you're going to get enlightened for Buddhahood. And this is where you're meditating. They all come in green tars, say, hey, this is it. You're almost done. This is where you're going to get it. You're going to get enlightened on this date at this time, in this place, and you will become this Buddha. It's like this is your grad. This is, the grad dance where you get to throw your hat up. This is the date of the graduation. And you can look forward to that. Okay, beautiful. Now, just quickly, just to end this class, because I'm going over a little bit here, is just 4 kinds of prajna paramita, or in other words, perfection of wisdom. The perfection of wisdom is, of course, meditating on seeing emptiness directly with a mind of great compassion and bodhicitta. So there's 4 ways of classifying this, just to finish here. Number 1, natural perfection of wisdom, which is, of course, emptiness, uncaused, unchanging quality of things, the natureless nature of things, emptiness. Second kind, which is textual prajna paramita, which is actually the written verbal teachings from the Buddhas that unerringly present the middle way, path, and result. 3, the path prajna paramita, which is the wisdom of the bodhisattva views with wisdom and method. In other words, the correct view of emptiness mixed with bodhicitta. So that would be path prajna paramita. And the 4th is the result, which is the omniscience of Buddha, the full enlightenment omniscience of Buddha, being able to realize emptiness directly with bodhicitta. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I think I'll just leave it there for now. And the next class is a shorter class. I'll just sort of tie up a few little things here on the 2 extremes of eternalism and nihilism. And just, I don't want to it'll be sort of another conversation if I do that. We've already talked long enough. Okay, so thank you so much. That's it for today. And thank you for coming. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And let's just take a moment to dedicate this. All of our good study on emptiness and 5 paths and path of seeing in particular. May all of our study and practice and meditation here go towards the enlightenment of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings walk this path and see emptiness directly, that we all meet in nirvana, a place beyond suffering. Okay, let's dedicate this for the waking of all beings. Okay, thank you, and we'll see you next time.